All right, let's just dive right into this fascinating explainer about how our brains actually absorb information. If you've ever spent hours, and I mean literally hours, poring over textbooks only to feel completely blank when it really matters, well, you are going to want to pay very close attention to what we cover today. We're about to completely dismantle pretty much everything you thought you knew about hitting the books. Seriously, think about this for a second. You know the feeling, right? You walk out of a massive 3-hour marathon study session feeling like an absolute warrior, only to realize maybe 10 minutes later that you can't actually remember a single thing you just read. Does it make you feel like a total fraud, like you're kind of just pretending to be a student while everyone else around you is naturally getting it? If you feel like your brain is just a leaky bucket that refuses to hold information no matter how hard you try, I want to validate that right now. It is incredibly frustrated. But look, here is the honest truth you really need to hear. You aren't lazy, and you definitely aren't not smart enough. You might actually just be trapped in a cycle of performing the act of studying rather than actually learning the material. You're working incredibly hard for sure, but you're not working smart. We so often go through these motions just to stop ourselves from feeling guilty, essentially creating this comforting illusion of progress. So, I'm going to fold a mirror up to your habits right now with 5 rapid-fire questions. Let's go. Number 1. Are you actually learning for an hour, or are you just staying busy for an hour so you don't feel like a failure? Be brutally honest with yourself about where your mental energy is really going. Question 2. If I walked into your room right this second and completely took your notes away, could you explain the very last chapter you just read to a 5-year-old? Because if you can't synthesize it simply without your safety net, you haven't truly comprehended it. Number 3, why are you so terrified to take a practice test without those notes right next to you? What exactly are you afraid you'll find? We dodge testing ourselves because it completely shatters that comfortable illusion that we know the material. Question 4, and honestly, this one is huge. Do you truly believe you're just not a math person or a science person? Or have you just been using a totally broken system your entire life, convinced that your innate intelligence is the actual problem? And finally, the high-stakes question. If your life literally depended on remembering what you studied today, a full month from now, would you actually be able to do it? Now, if those questions made you feel a little exposed or uncomfortable, stay with me, because we are about to completely turn this around. Okay, let's just take a deep breath here. The problem is not you. I know that deep frustration of staring at a textbook and feeling like you're just hitting a brick wall, but you weren't born with a bad memory. You were simply never taught how your brain actually absorbs information. And that is exactly where our source material comes in. What's really fascinating about the text from Shadow Books, How to Study Like a Genius, is how it breaks down the exact mechanics of why you're struggling. This isn't just vague, feel-good inspiration. It gives us a highly practical framework for execution. So let's look at exactly what the text reveals about our flawed habits. Let's tackle that staying busy thing first. The book explicitly explains that most students deeply confuse time spent with learning done. You can sit in a chair with a book open for 6 whole hours, but if your brain is passive, you're going to retain almost nothing. Learning is strictly measured by what you can actually recall, not the duration of your suffering. So the crucial point here is understanding this very specific concept of familiarity. The source material warns that rereading and highlighting create a really dangerous illusion. Your brain simply recognizes the words on the page, tricking you into feeling this false sense of security. But that feeling of familiarity, it completely disappears the second you're sitting in a quiet room under exam pressure. It's a stark contrast between familiarity and true memory. Familiarity is just recognizing words when they are safely right in front of you. True memory is the ability to retrieve that information from your brain completely from scratch, under pressure. Your old, safe methods with those bright neon highlighters are consistently failing you because they only build familiarity, never actual memory. And this brilliantly illustrates why safe zones hold you back. Because we rely on familiarity, we avoid our absolute best tool, testing. We avoid it because testing reveals our knowledge gaps, and hitting a gap feels like failure. But according to the book, the literal struggle you feel in your brain during active recall is exactly what strengthens your neural connections. Basically, if studying feels easy and smooth, you probably aren't actually learning much of anything. This completely shatters the myth that you aren't smart enough. Genius-level learners aren't born with magically superior brains. As the text clearly shows, they just use better systems. In fact, the book notes that average students who shift to active recall strategies consistently outperform naturally gifted peers who rely on passive reading by up to 30%. Skill and strategic systems beat raw talent every single time. It is a highly trainable skill. So, how do we actually build long-term retention? The text introduces the concept of spaced review. Without this, your memory inevitably fades. You simply cannot cram once and hope for the best. You have to actively retrieve the information over several days to literally force your brain to make it stick for the long haul. Without spaced review, all your hard work just evaporates. Which leads us to a pretty profound psychological truth from the text. Most of us struggle because we try to study emotionally instead of strategically. We dive into the books when we're anxious or completely exhausted, and we fall back on those safe methods like rereading because they soothe our anxiety in the moment, even though they do not work. We've got to stop fighting our brains and start working with their natural limits. Genius isn't a trait, it's a method. This is the ultimate paradigm shift of this entire framework. You have a very clear choice to make right now about your habits. You can stay in your comfort zone, keep doing what's familiar, and continue getting those exact same frustrating results. Or you can commit to a structural system that actually works. I'm going to leave you with one final, pretty provocative thought from the source material. Really let the gravity of this sink in. If you keep studying the exact same way you did today, where will you be in 5 years? Think about the goals you have and whether your current systems will actually get you there. It is time to finally escape the illusion of learning.